Hi, I'm Christina Trauthwein, VP of Content and Partnerships at Hotel Business, and I'm here right now with Cindy Estis Green, and she is the CEO of Kalibri Labs. Welcome, Cindy.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Okay, I think first and foremost, you just launched a book. So let's talk about that book a little bit, and let's talk about what you mean by digital disruption.
So the book is called Demystifying the Digital Market and Guide to Commercial Strategy, and it's the sixth in a series that I've done since 2004. And it's really meant to kind of give an overview to the hotel industry of the digital disruptors, the tech platforms, the big digital players that are starting to play in the travel space.
Okay, great. So how do changes in the digital marketplace play out for the hotel industry, brands and owners and operators, and what are some threats and what are some opportunities?
So most threats are also opportunities, and it's all how you look at it. So what I learned in the course of doing the research is, as we have had for the last 10 to 15 years, there's been a plethora of digital players who have entered the market. We're all familiar with the online travel agents. We're familiar with the search engines like Google or Kayak, and now there's some new players that are coming in who are trying to participate in the marketplace. And some of them are partners to the brands and partners to hotels, and some of them are competing with them. And it's a big, noisy marketplace.
Okay.
And there's, it really comes down to understanding how you have access to consumers when there's so many players and what it costs to have access to those consumers. And that is the main challenge. And that's kind of what drives the whole theme of commercial strategy also.
Okay, and we're going to circle back to commercial strategy. But first, when you did the research for this book, did you have any surprises or some aha tech moments?
Well, I think the biggest surprise is the pace at which some of the larger players like Uber or the credit card companies like Capital One or Citibank or JP Morgan Chase have set their sights on travel and intend to play in a very significant way. I was vaguely aware of it, but I didn't totally appreciate how serious they were about entering the market and how much they were committed to not just the hotel part of the market, but a broad part of the market, really trying to own the full customer journey when it comes to travel. And I think that's what it's going to come down to between what the brands do and what some of these digital disruptors do. Who will really control the customer journey?
Right.
What parts of it? And what can either brands do about it, and what can actually hotel owners and operators do about it?
Right. So do you think that this is just a natural evolution of the marketplace, or is it some kind of watershed moment that has some long-lasting impact?
I think we've been moving in this direction for quite some time, with the large digital players becoming increasingly more dominant. But, at one time the GDSs were like 10% of the business, and then the OTAs have now grown to 15 to 20% of the business. We now have the search engines and this financial tech, the fintech players, Airbnb, Uber, they're touching 85 to 90% of the travel process. It doesn't mean that bookings get done through them, but it means that they're involved in the travel process. And that's a big change.
Yeah.
I think we're kind of hitting an inflection point where the question is, what's the role of the hotel brand? How does an individual hotel owner and operator navigate in the space with these giant players who are, some of them, trillion-dollar companies? And what can be done about it to operate effectively? Because even though these big players have huge market caps and are very powerful, there's certain levels of customer service that they just aren't in a position to give. So I think there's a lot of room for the brands and the hotel owners and operators to manage, but they're going to operate in a very different way than they did in the past.
So what can be done to mitigate some of the challenges by the brands and by the hotel operators?
Well, for the brand's point of view, I think that a lot of what they need to do is think about this customer journey and decide, so much of it is becoming digital. So what portion of it, mobile check-in and digital key and choose your own room and, information about a destination when you get there, for decisions about dining or getting tickets for concerts or sporting events. Who's going to supply that information and who's going to take care of the guests? There's always going to be the boots on the ground who have to do it.
Right.
But the consumers of today are expecting more of it to be digital. So as long as you have partly digital and partly non-digital, the question is who's delivering that? And the management companies are going to become key to make sure they deliver it. But from a brand point of view, they have to be able to limit services such as, early arrival or late departure or, connecting rooms or those kind of things, where you can only get that if you book through the brand. And then I think they can kind of retain the guest experience as part of what they deliver for their brand value proposition and be successful. From a hotelier's point of view, they are still wrestling with so many players. And this comes into the whole point of commercial strategy and
Right.
the way that they can operate with commercial strategy.
Well, it's a great segue. So how can the commercial strategy approach help hoteliers navigate the digital disruption?
So another thing that's kind of changed in the marketplace, besides the advent of so many of these digital players, is we've moved into this very high cost, we've got debt service that's doubled or tripled, and labor cost is 4 and 5 times what it was, and insurance costs. So when you think about what an operator can do to manage in a space where so much of the access to the consumer is kind of controlled by these gatekeepers, as I call them. So what's got to change is that the operators have to actually have a much more granular view of the demand profile in every market. They have to know all of these players. They have to know what they're worth. They have to know how much it costs to get that business. And they have to actually think about, what is the optimal business mix to deliver the highest profit contribution. Right. So in the past, we've focused on top-line revenue. Now we have to really think about what's going to grow asset value, because that's the strength of the hotel industry. So I think if the operators can be very strategic and smart and surgical about what business they go after, they can be successful in extracting the mix of business that delivers them the highest profit contribution.
Well, it sounds like your book will help them be strategic and smart. So we're going to provide a link so you can download Cindy's book. And Cindy, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.